You ever just stop and look at a massive skyscraper or maybe a super lightweight bicycle frame and just wonder, how? Seriously, how does it all hold together? Well, it turns out the entire world around us is built on this kind of secret language, one that stops things from failing catastrophically every single day. So let's learn how to speak it.
I mean, really think about it. A skyscraper has to be unbelievably strong, right? But it also needs to be flexible enough to sway a little in the wind. And a plane wing, it has to bend under enormous pressure without just snapping in half. The answer to how we pull off these incredible feats lies in really, truly understanding the materials themselves.
And to get how we design things that don't break, we first have to take a little journey back in time. You see, the story of engineering is, in a lot of ways, really just the story of the materials we had to work with.
For pretty much all of human history, our toolkit was, well, limited. We built our entire world from natural stuff, things we could find, hunt, or grow. Wood, stone, bone. These were our options, and they totally defined the limits of what was even possible.
But then, right around the turn of the 20th century, everything changes. The Industrial Revolution gave us the power to process and actually create brand new materials. Just look at the explosion in that metals category. All of a sudden, we have steels, bronze, aluminum. Our engineering palette just got a whole lot bigger.
Okay, let's fast forward to 1945. After World War II, materials science just takes off like a rocket. We weren't just finding materials anymore, we were starting to design them. You can see it right there on the chart. New plastics and advanced metal alloys are starting to pop up all over the place.
And that, of course, brings us to today. I mean, look at this chart now. It is absolutely packed. We've got engineered ceramics, advanced polymers, composites like carbon fiber, you name it. We can pretty much design a material for almost any job. So, what was it? What was the fundamental knowledge that unlocked all this incredible progress?
Well, the key was learning to speak the language of materials. And that language is built on two absolutely core concepts, stress and strain. These two little words explain how basically any object, from a simple rubber band to a massive bridge, responds to a force.
All right, first up is stress. The easiest way to think about stress is as the internal force a material is feeling when you push or pull on it. It's measured as force spread out over an area, kind of like a pressure that's building up on the inside.
And how does the material react to all that stress? Well, that's strain. Strain is simply the measure of how much that material stretches or compresses or just generally deforms. It's the change in its shape compared to what it was before.
Now, for a lot of materials, there's this really simple, predictable relationship between stress and strain, at least at first. The more stress you put on it, the more strain you get, and it all follows this nice, clean, straight line. This famous principle is known as Hooke's law.
But what happens if you just keep pulling? Materials don't follow that straight line forever. Nope. Every single material has a limit, and understanding what happens when you cross that line is pretty much the key to all of engineering.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is what we call elastic behavior. You apply a load, the material stretches. Then you take the load off, and it follows the exact same path right back to where it started. No harm, no foul.
So that's the crucial idea here. As long as you stay within this elastic limit, any change is just temporary. It's like gently stretching a rubber band and letting it go. It just snaps right back, good as new.
But look what happens now when we push past that limit. We load the material up, it stretches, but when we let it go, it follows a totally different path back. It doesn't return to where it started from. Uh-oh. There is now a permanent change.
This permanent change has a name. It's called plastic deformation. And the perfect analogy for this is a paper clip. You bend it just a tiny bit, it springs back. But if you bend it too far, it stays bent. Forever. You've just pushed it past its elastic limit.
This stress-strain curve for a metal basically tells the whole story. See that straight line up to point P? That's our old friend Hooke's law. Point E, that's the elastic limit, the point of no return. Go past that, and the change is permanent. And then you hit point Y, the yield point, which is where things really start to stretch out for good.
Now here's the thing. Not all materials go through that nice, long, stretching phase before they finally give up. In fact, materials generally fail in one of two very different ways. They're either ductile or they're brittle.
And this is a super simple but absolutely vital distinction. Ductile materials, like steel or copper, they give you a warning. They stretch and they thin out before they finally break. But brittle materials like glass or a ceramic plate, they give you zero warning. They just snap.
And this graph just makes the difference so obvious. Look at the curves for steel and copper. See how they stretch a huge amount before they finally fail? That's ductility in action. Now look at the line for glass. It just goes up, and then it stops. Cold. It fractures with almost no plastic deformation at all. That, my friends, is a brittle failure.
Okay, so let's bring all this home. Understanding stress, strain, elasticity, and these two different ways things can fail, that's what let us go from just finding materials to actually designing them from the ground up.
Remember this crazy chart from the beginning? We can look at it with totally new eyes now. Every single one of those dots, every material on there, has its own unique stress-strain curve. And by doing things like alloying metals or creating composites, we are literally manipulating those curves. We're tuning a material's strength, its stiffness, and its ductility for a very specific job.
So this is why things don't break, or, well, why they don't break when we don't want them to. It's because we finally learned their language. And that leaves us with this incredible question. Now that our ability to design and control these properties is getting more and more precise, what kind of impossible structures are we going to build tomorrow? What will our material world even look like in another 100 years?